Most people have got no idea how to talk to Claude. They ask vague questions, they get vague questions back. And so today, I've decided to put 10 of my most used prompts that I use every single day that will help you a ton that you can adjust for your specific situations into a nice little overview with some, first of all, very simple rules in mind to give you a good gist of what makes a prompt good. So first things first, let me put down some ground rules of things you should always do. And this basically goes along the lines of, if I now give you these prompts, it'll have places that say topic or audience. Don't put, a person or people. No, you put exactly what the audience or what the target or whatever would be. For example, to be specific, tech founders in 2026 beats people. So tell Claude exactly what you need. Then when it comes to context, and this is again very important, tell Claude what you need it for. Like you're writing a landing page and is obviously going to be a completely different output than a specific LinkedIn copy or a LinkedIn type of page that you need. If you get my difference right there, just because you have an idea of what you want to build, you should actually specify significantly more why it is you're building that or what you're building it for, potentially your audience there. And also iterate. First output is the starting point. Ask follow-ups, refine. Magic happens in the back and forth and happens in multiple iterations of something. Because you're not looking to get the perfect answer at the first time. You're basically looking for a perfect answer eventually. All right, prompt number 1 is the research brief. And he basically used this brief when you need to understand a topic fast. So the output is always in the same sort of structure, one-liner, why now, the key facts, what's changing, one action, and it takes like 30 seconds. When you use this one is when you hear something in the news, for example, you need some quick context, or you're prepping for a meeting, or you're trying to understand a competitor's move, or you're trying to understand them better. It's just a simple introduction to something that you could generate in a minute or two that also is able to be read in a minute or two. Then prompt number 2, which is actually my favorite of these prompts, it's for writing a copy. This is one of my favorite because, well, you fill in the product, the audience, the tone, the CTA, and Claude comes back with a few different options. But so I filled it in myself with just one iteration of a toothbrush store. That's the first thing I could come up with specifically for dentistry students. Very confident in this that it brushes better than ever before. And you can see it went through a few different options and actually picked for itself which was the strongest and laid out the reasons exactly for why as well. Again, if you're paying close attention, you can read that all 3 of these are very much significantly different, and they all go into exactly what I specified. No fluff, has a confident tone, it gives a good benefit description as to why it's better. Like, oh, here, it goes into topic. You're going to spend the next 4 years telling people how to brush. You should probably own the brush you'd actually recommend. Really, really nice. This prompt is not as important anymore in the near future because there's too many of these different plugins or already built-in systems into Claude Code that actually audit your code for yourself. However, even though there are systems within Claude right now to review your code, I still think it's wise to just run it in a lot of different ways, to just run any sort of code audit in multiple different fashions. And here I think is a nice little prompt that you could copy over, just for double, triple, quadruple checking, because obviously you want your code to be solid. And I think this is one of the prompts that people used to always use before Claude got more and more features for this. So yeah. If your code is broken, well, you need to start getting a good grip of exactly what's going on, what's happening. And that's why I think as a prompt 4, a debug prompt is this can save you so much freaking time. One of the things many people forget is that it's way better for Claude, for example, or ChatGPT in that matter, to go through step by step what the most likely cause is, then how to fix it, then actually go ahead and fixing it, and keeping some sort of track record of the thought process throughout. The key part here is the explanation, because the more it explains where it exactly went wrong, what exactly went wrong, etc., you learn from instead of just copy pasting a fix or letting Claude or whatever AI you're using fix it itself. For number 5, I again have a prompt I use all the time, which is a summarization prompt. If you've got a long article or a long transcript or a dense PDF, you paste it in and Claude extracts the headline, 3 takeaways, the surprising insights, and the next action. This is really just what you need from whatever insert you've got, all right? These are the most important pieces to just take away from it. And if you want to adjust it, well, you just adjust it along with this format. Again, this can save you a ton of time if you think about it from the perspective that you may have a ton of files to go through and you actually can't read them all. If you've only got one file, I'm going to say you don't need a summarization prompt like this, because it's actually better to be more specific of what you want to get out of that file. But again, to have some sort of standard summarization prompt in that you can format for yourself. For example, maybe you actually want the headline to be a different way. Maybe you want multiple different takeaways, etc. You can, of course, change it around. It's just nice to have some sort of prompt ready in case you have a lot of docs to go through. Now, a very important part of life, prompt 6, is decision making. You have multiple options and you're stuck. You just fill in exactly what options you have, or you give it access to your file so it knows exactly what your priorities are. But otherwise, you put in your priorities, you put in your constraints, and Claude will score them and actually give you some sort of recommendation with reasoning as well as feedback. This has saved me probably hours over the past 3 days alone. Because before most of my big decisions, I just run a few of these prompts to go through different ideas, different contexts. And what I mean with that is that it's always nice to get the Claude perspective from it and let it go through a few different mindsets. So you for example, get the biggest risk from this AI, but then maybe perhaps you actually rethink it over again. So as it gives you the biggest risk, you again let it elaborate upon why that may be the biggest risk, etc., etc. And you get a better understanding of all your options by letting an AI take a look at it, if of course you feel comfortable. Then again, this is also keeping in mind that you could use most of these prompts also on your local AI, your local LLMs on your computer. You don't have to give it access to the internet here. Prompt number 7 is the brainstorming prompt. If you need ideas, you need to give it some context, and it generates just 15 ideas within a freaking split second. Some safe, some weird, some ambitious, depending of course on what you want. And after it's done that, it gives you some sort of recommendation of which exactly it thinks it's best to go for, or at least to start working on. And if you're thinking of launching anything, if you're thinking of doing some content, if you're thinking of starting a new idea, let this go through it and see if it can actually build some side ideas. Maybe you switch from your version A to a version A.B, if you know what I mean, or A.2 or whatever. Even though it might stay close to your idea, maybe just some side iteration. Prompt number 8 is the email writing prompt. I don't know who exactly still writes emails in the big 2026, like who are you sending emails to, but in case you are, maybe you got to do it for work, maybe you got to dabba-dabba-dabba-do, and you want it to write something for you. You want to get your doctor's appointment in check. You want to, it's always nice to have some sort of email prompt, because otherwise you're going to have an AI type of email prompt, all right? If you've ever tried it, which of course I have, it looks like AI wrote it unless you start writing a ton of different contexts. In this case here, if you go with this format, you most of the time get something pretty freaking beautiful that you can easily just send off to your employer, to whoever needs to receive this email. And one of the nice things is as well, this is some sort of sample. But the more that Claude or your AI starts to know you, the more you can stay away from giving these type of constraints, for example, because it understands what you'd like to see in it. Or if you're using something like WhisperFlow, you can just easily talk it to your phone, right? Or talk it to your microphone and give it all these constraints, etc. It's just nice, like I said, to have some sort of overview, how you should most likely be writing it in for an email, because then you don't forget, all right? It's very easy to just start writing about the recipient and the goal, but forget the tone, or you forget the length, or you forget that you should also give it perhaps like a deadline or some context or any other sort of restraint, or like I said before, one of these bottom parts. Just, it's important to keep a framework. Here's my actual most useful prompt out of all of them. Prompt number 9, which is data cleanup. I run this all the time because Claude leaves mess. Alright, if you've been using Claude Cowork or Claude Code for a while, you'll find random files here and there, and I do not like their auto delete feature. I do not like it to go through files and start deleting things, but I need a good system of cleaning up the files, cleaning up random CSVs, making sure there's not got the same file 3 times over with slightly different names, formatted in a strange manner or whatnot. So every now and then, I make it identify duplicates, but more importantly, I make it tell me what the best course of action would be here. However, that is a double-edged sword. How this also works is if you've got a data sheet, you've got a ton of data in there that doesn't actually make sense. How exactly do we list this data in the best manner? So in my opinion, I personally don't have that many files that are super messy myself, and I don't really have too many CSVs that are messy because it's mostly AI generated. It's just a formatting issue which easily gets fixed. However, this works 2 ways. One, you can actually let it mess up the mess it has made, which it inevitably will over time. But on the opposite side also, if you've just got PDFs, you've got CSVs with thousands of different data pieces that don't actually make a lot of sense, let it interpret it. Why did it interpret it this way? And is there anything double or whatever? It can do it all. And of course, one of the game breakers with AI is a planning prompt, all right? Have you got a goal? Have some mission? Have you got something in mind you need to get to? Any sort of timeline, any sort of resource you've got? Claude can break it out into milestones, create some dependencies for you, and see what you need to do when, what you need to cut, etc. Just start filling these things out, and I guarantee your life will improve. From an AI perspective, of course, because these prompts, they save you a ton of time of just trying to optimize a question. Having said that, there is also a hidden lever. Here's what makes all these 10 prompts work, and it's basically all the same thing. Every prompt has constraints built in. For example, the earlier research brief has a 3-minute recap or a 5-sentence structure. Or the code review, for example, has 5 specific areas that it checks. Or the planning prompt needs a critical path and a list of things what to cut. Now, constraints, they force Claude to be useful instead of verbose. So what it basically means is if you just say, help me plan this, Claude will give you a plan, but it's like a wall of text basically, and I personally can't handle it. But if you say, give me 3 to 5 milestones, and you flag the dependencies, and you tell me a critical path to follow, you actually get a really helpful tool that you can actually start working with, that you can actually depend on, that you can actually use. And these prompts, in my opinion, work because you're not asking Claude to think. You're asking Claude to fill a template. You do the thinking and Claude does the filling. Now, keep in mind, you can, of course, make more templates with Claude, and this will actually save you a ton of time over time as well. Or you can just build out your file more and more because, as I said before, the more it knows you, the more it knows a way to build all your answers to your perfect satisfaction. But if you're new, you're starting out, or you're starting into a new vertical, these prompts can save you a ton of time and potentially a ton of money or a ton of just effort. I don't know how to describe it the best way, because most likely you're not getting the best answers that you do deserve. And I'll leave all prompts probably either in the description down below, or, I mean, you can just screenshot them and take them from the screen, right? I mean, if you're using Claude, if you're using AI, you should be able to take some sort of screenshot and be able to get these prompts copy-pasted. But customize it to your liking, run it, have some fun with it. And the more important part is these are not meant to be perfect. All they're meant is to be a stepping stone for you to get better at prompting and for you to write exactly what you need. Matter of fact, if you've got a prompt that's better than some of the ones that I've written right here, let me know in the comments down below, all right? Don't go copy-pasting too much crazy stuff because you may get blocked, YouTube may not like that, but hey, I'm personally all ears. I'd like to see what you guys are able to come up with or some of the prompts that have saved you a ton of time over time. And if I see a couple of good ones, I'll definitely build a part 2. Matter of fact, I think probably in a couple of weeks from now, these will all be old, and I'll be looking again at the comment section to see what exactly the best prompts of the season are. But if you enjoyed this video, make sure you press that like button and make sure you subscribe to the channel because I post AI videos on here every single day. And I'll be back tomorrow with yet another one.